Hello, 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 you guys. Welcome to another social emotional workshop. Today, we are going to be talking about there are no tricks to discipline. We are with Joe and Theresa from CARE of Southeastern Michigan. You guys, welcome back. We're so glad to have you.
Tony.
Thank you. All right, so we'll get right into it, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we're raising kids, or even you can even look at this as, teachers in classrooms, just how do you modify somebody's behavior, right? They're doing something wrong and you want to modify their behavior. So, you Google discipline and there's millions and millions of things that come up, like, all these tricks or manipulation. But elementary school really isn't any tricks.
I remember those signs.
Theresa, I don't know if that's you. Can you put yourself on mute? I don't know if you're I hear a lot of conversation.
Yes.
All right. So yes, there's no tricks to discipline. Discipline is a relationship, right? When you have a healthy relationship, you'll get more cooperation and more respect, and they will kind of value your values, your family values. It's really hard to discipline our kids because of our emotional attachment that we have with them. So now you're grown up, you realize the mistakes that you've made, and you want to correct these mistakes in your children. And we have such an emotional attachment, like our children can't fail. So we will kind of have this, what I call fear-based parenting, where we're like, you better not make the same mistakes I did. I already did that, and you better not. And we try to control and dump all of our fears and anxieties on them without realizing that, they're human beings. They're not going to have the same life that you did. They don't have the same personality, temperament, resiliency that you did. So they are different. But the emotional attachment that we have really affects the way we parent or the way we have a relationship with our loved ones, our parents, teachers, and students. And when I used to go to my son's baseball games and soccer games, I can tell who the coach's son or daughter is. Do you think you can tell who the coach's son or daughter is? And it's interesting to see, look at all the kids playing on the field, and you see the coach interacting with them. What do you think the coach does to his children that he doesn't do to the other kids that he coaches? And I have a few responses from parents. Some parents say they give them more game time, right? More ice time, more field time, and that could be possible too. But what I see is that the coaches are harder on their own kids than they are on the other kids. And as a matter of fact, I was my son's assistant baseball coach when they went from T-ball to coach pitch. And there's this one little girl who could not hit the ball. And I spent all the time in the world with her. Put your feet shoulder width apart, put your elbow up, choke up on the bat. She'd swing and miss. And I would just smile and say, all right, you got to put your elbow up a little bit. And she'd swing and miss. And I worked with her for quite a bit. And then I said, you know what's missing? A smile. I said, you have to smile at the pitcher. So put her in their perfect stance, and she smiles and she swings and she hit the ball. It was amazing. She was so excited. Now my son gets up there and he swings and misses. What do you think I do? I'm like, come on, Alex, get that elbow up. What are you doing? Come on. You can't embarrass me, right? You are better. And I have all this emotional attachment because when they make a mistake, I see it as a reflection on me. So we really need to separate that emotional attachment and really connect with them in a relationship, a safe, comforting, respectful relationship. So I always talk about the brain development because we have to understand children, adolescents, adults as they grow. So the first part of our brain is the brainstem all the way in the back, and then it grows forward to our limbic system, which is our beliefs, feelings, and emotions. And then the prefrontal cortex, which is behind our forehead, which doesn't develop until about mid-20s. So let's say you have a 14-year-old do something really silly. And you're like, what the heck did you do that for? Weren't you thinking? And he responds, no, Dad, I'm only 14. My prefrontal cortex isn't hardwired yet. I'm just responding out of my emotions and my feelings. I mean, what do you want from me? I'm just a kid. And that's a perfect answer, because we believe that they're short adults or that they should know better. Especially teenagers, when they are taller than us, they do have the physique of a mature man or woman, and we expect them to be as smart as us, or to be rational, forward thinking, and actually thinking about consequences. So we really have to understand that development of that brain, that they are only children or adolescents. And the greatest human need, this kind of puts the whole foundation of behavior, that all humans, it's Adlerian psychology. Alfred Adler says we all have this greatest human need, and if we don't have it, we're going to get it somehow. And the greatest human need is, drum roll, greatest human need is the need to be needed. And that includes love, acceptance, affirmation. So when you have the greatest human need met, you feel love, acceptance, affirmation, your brain releases endorphins like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. When you have the greatest human need met, you have feel-good endorphins in your brain. And how do you act when you feel good? Exactly. You act good. You feel good, you act good. So now let's say there's a child or an adolescent that doesn't have the greatest human need felt. They don't feel loved, they don't feel accepted, they don't feel affirmed. And now they don't have that wonderful dopamine, those endorphins that make them feel good. So now there's a negative imbalance of that feel good. So if you feel negative, how do you act? Exactly, right on key, negative. I'm just having a conversation with myself because I can't have it back and forth, guys. So if you feel bad, you act bad. If you feel good, you act good. And it's that child's perception of that greatest human need. You can think that you're giving it to them. You love them unconditionally, you accept them, you affirm them, but if they don't feel it, they don't believe it. So we really have to understand that if they don't fit in just by being who they are, then they're going to act out. If I was in a classroom and nobody was paying attention to me and I needed attention, what am I going to do? I'm going to start throwing spitballs at people. I'm going to la, 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 and interrupt people, and everybody's going to be annoyed and they're going to pay attention to me. So if kids don't fit in, they're going to act out. And they act out in one of four ways. And these are the goals of misbehavior, so-called misbehavior, because I wonder if there is any misbehavior. And I'll talk about that in a second. But if I'm in that classroom and nobody's paying attention to me, I'm going to annoy everybody until they say, Joe, shut up. You're so annoying. Oh my gosh, look at you. Oh, there you go. Why do you always do it? And guess what I just got? I fit in. I fit in a negative way. I got my need met. Now, if I needed power in that classroom or in that home, and I feel I need power, then I am not going to do what you tell me to do. I'm going to say, no, go jump in the lake. I'm going to gain power through not letting you control me. And if I was in that classroom and maybe the teacher embarrassed me or set me up or did something hurtful that I thought was an injustice, I'm going to behave in revenge. I'm going to say, how dare he or she do that? And I'll put a tack on her chair the next day to get my revenge. Or if I'm in that classroom and I can't do anything and I don't fit in, that last one, display of inadequacies, I just don't do my homework. I can't do anything. The teacher says, you know, what's wrong? How can you do that? I can't do it. No, I'm stupid. I can't. And usually teachers or parents will kind of coddle and kind of let them off the hook or do it for them. And they don't have any improvement. So really looking at misbehavior, is it really misbehavior? Or is it just behavior to get that greatest human need, to get one of these needs met, or a goal of fitting in or power or protecting their self-worth? Oh, also the teenagers have a few more goals of this behavior. You know, peer acceptance is pretty powerful. Superiority. So the teen just thinks they're smarter than everybody in the whole world, right? Dad don't know nothing, mom don't know nothing, teacher don't know nothing. So they have that superiority thing. And it looks like misbehavior, of course, although it's just that superiority. And then thrill seeking of doing really risky stuff. So we have to look at that misbehavior. And I always say, you know, you can put out fires all day long. And what I mean is you can come home and stop the sibling rivalry. You can stop make them go do their chores, bedtime struggles, nighttime struggles. You can put out all those fires, homework. But you can do that every day with your punishment or so-called discipline. But what I'm saying is catch the arsonist, which means get to the belief behind the behavior. Because the behavior is getting a need met. Find out why they're misbehaving. What are they after? Provide that in a healthy way. And now you caught the arsonist. You won't have to put out any more fires. And I'll make that more clear coming in with this kind of children's mistaken beliefs of they only fit in. Let me go back to that slide. They only fit in if people pay attention. They only fit in if they have power. They don't fit in and they feel bad, but I can make you feel as bad as I do. That's that revenge. Or they just feel that they can't do anything and they give up. And their job is to prove to you not to expect anything from them. So all behavior is communication. And I want to know why that kid is misbehaving. So how do we handle misbehavior when it happens? Well, this is what we do. We throw them on that Willy Wonka scale and we weigh them. Are they good or are they bad? Right? They call that rewards and punishments. Catch them when they're good, reward them. Catch them when they're bad and punish them. Has anybody been raised on rewards and punishments? You can put in the chat yes or no. Rewards and punishments, everybody kind of familiar with? And maybe you're raising your children or running your classrooms with rewards and punishments. Right? You get a gold star from doing your work and you get reprimanded for not doing your work. So we were kind of raised on rewards and punishments. But let's say I did something really good and nobody rewarded me for it. How does that kid feel? It's like, hey, didn't you guys just see what I just did? I was nice to my brother. Isn't anybody going to say nice things like good job, or I didn't get my reward? Or if I got paid for my grades when I was younger and then I get straight A's, and I expect what? I expect payment, right? I was good, so I expect payment. Now let's look at the other way. Let's say I was bad.
Taking, what's up with you?
Let's say I was bad and I didn't get caught. Was it really bad? Because I did something really bad and looked over my shoulder and I didn't get caught. Was it really bad? Because who's in charge of rewards and punishments? The parent is in charge of rewards and punishments, right? The parent is to watch, catch them when they're good, reward them, catch them when they're bad and punish them. It's the parents who's in charge of that, are responsible for that. So
I'm lagging on my job here. Everybody said that they were raised the same way, Joe. Rewards,
yeah,
punishment. Yeah.
rewards and punishments. And I'm wondering, did it work? Well, I'll get to did it work when we get into a little deeper into some of the skills here. Yeah, we think that's pretty good, because who would want to repeat the behavior if they got punished for it? I'll tell you who. A child that wants power, right? You're gonna try to punish me? How dare you? Yeah, you can win today, but I'll win tomorrow. So that rewards and punishments usually doesn't work. Now, for some kids, it could work because I don't want a spanking, so I won't do it again, right? And I want reward, so I'll be better. Although when I choose the right choice, I'm choosing it for the reward or to avoid the pain, not for the true inner values. So rewards and punishments puts conditions on their self-worth. That means you catch them when they're bad and punish them. They hear rejection and pain and suffering. Catch them when they're good. They hear acceptance, praise, and rewards. So I'm good, I'm bad. Accepted, rejected. Accepted, rejected. So now that kid's on a constant pendulum. I'm good, I'm bad. And they might start thinking, I'm only good if I do my homework. I'm only good if I don't fight with my brother or sister, right? So now there's conditions on your unconditional love, because when they're bad, you spank them or take their stuff away or hurt them emotionally or physically. So that puts conditions. Now, it also teaches kids to expect payment for being good, like I just mentioned. I'm good, so let me tell you a quick story of my nephew. This is when the iPod Touch first came out, so I don't know what year that was, and at least 10 years ago probably. But his grades were down, and I was over the house visiting, and his mom was trying to tell him to raise his grade point average. And he said, well, what do I get for it? And he negotiated an iPod Touch for raising his grade point average. And she was like, well, I don't know, I'll think about it. He says, well, I have to know. Why should I get good grades if I'm not going to get the iPod Touch? True story. So kids are focusing on that reward and not taking the value of learning or just doing well in their lives for themselves. And it adds to that mistaken belief of I only belong if. So be careful what works, because we always have to look deeper to say, what are they learning? Now, punishments are threats, yelling, put down, spankings, taking things away, withdrawal privileges, all those things that we grew up with. Stand in the corner, hold out your hands, hold out 2 books, right? I heard some really torturous punishments of kneeling on cornmeal in the kitchen, all kinds of medieval kind of punishments that are cultural in our lives, that our great-grandparents and our grandparents and our parents, and now we do it with our children. So punishment actually means extreme treatment for unwanted behavior, right? So they do so we want to give them some extreme treatment for the unwanted behavior so they'll change. Now, that type of stuff may stop the misbehavior temporarily, but it doesn't teach them what to do instead. It doesn't give them an alternative. Like, instead of doing this, I should be doing this to get the same need that I'm after. So it really doesn't tell them what to do instead. All it does is hurt them for not doing what you wanted them to do. And ask this question in your head right now. Can you punish somebody into better behavior? Interesting question. Can you punish somebody into better behavior? It all depends on the kid, I would imagine. But I don't know if anybody's saw Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting, there was a scene in Good Will Hunting where Will, the troubled youth, was in foster care, and his foster parents did some really horrible things to him. And Robin Williams, who was the psychologist, was talking to him, and Will was sharing all the horrible things, he said my stepfather or my foster father used to line up a belt, a stick, and a wrench and said, pick which one that I'm going to hit you with. And Will said the wrench. And Robin Williams, the psychologist, said the wrench. He goes, man, I'd go with the belt there, Chuck. Why you pick the wrench? He said, because bleep him. Right? You can't hurt me. So once kids get used to punishment, then guess what they can do? Anything they want. Right? It's not going to modify my behavior. I'll still do the thing you don't want me to do. I'll come home and I get the whooping. Who cares? I can take a whooping. I'm used to them. If I lose my phone, if I do that, I'll lose my phone. Fine. I'll do the misbehavior. Take my phone for a week. I don't care. I got another one stashed that you don't even know about. And you kind of have those kind of relationships. So can you punish somebody into better behavior? Depends on the relationship, really. So they'll start making those healthier choices out of fear of pain and suffering, not the pure inner values of the family. So punishment does have that. Is it working? Well, it might stop the behavior, but it's only stopping the behavior from fear. Once that authority figure is gone, that kid can do whatever he wants to do, as long as there's not another authority figure that's going to, provide that pain. And when I say pain, it could be spankings, but it could just be emotional pain of taking all their stuff away and doing that kind of stuff. In that last bullet point, if your child doesn't respect you, they won't respect your values. And I have in parentheses there until they're 40 years old, right? Because when you're in your youth and you have all that anger and resentment from maybe some of the punishing environments that we're in, when we grow up and we get our prefrontal cortex hardwired, get some life behind us, now we're like, yeah, you know what? Mom, mom had to do that. I learned all those values from mom and dad or the caregiver. But when they were 12 or 14 getting whooped, they're not saying, oh, thank you for whooping me. This is really nice. I really appreciate how much you love me and how much you're keeping me safe. No, when they're young, they're like, I hate you, get away from me. But when they get older, they rationalize. I was wondering, anybody in the room? Go ahead,
Oh, he's
Therese.
not doing good.
Well, I was just going to say, one person did say, when you asked, can you punish into better behavior? One person said, I think you can, but that was before you started your
Okay.
explanation. So I don't know if it affected what they said or not.
Well, that person can go a little deeper if they want, but I think you can answer is, well, you might be able to do that, but now let's ask, what did they learn? Say you punished them into better behavior. Now, what did they learn? So now they're adults. They're in adult relationships, adult jobs and stuff. So now let's say my girlfriend is doing something and I need to modify her behavior, right? So how do I modify her behavior? Let's see, when I was younger, they used taking all my stuff away, withdrawal of privileges. They might've used spankings. They might've used humiliation. So now my girlfriend's misbehaving. Now I have to modify her behavior. So let's withdraw sex, right? I'm so used to modifying somebody's behavior by withdrawing privileges. So I withdraw money if I'm in control of the money. I might withdraw affection if she really likes affection. So what did they learn? How are they going to do it? Now, let's say if it was violence. So when I was younger, I got spanked for doing something I wasn't supposed to do. So now I'm in middle school, somebody takes the ball away from me. How do I get the ball back? I might have to punch him in the mouth. If kids learn through pain, they teach through pain. So if we teach through pain, kids learn through pain. When they grow up, they teach through pain, thinking that that person is going to learn through pain. When I say pain, it doesn't mean physical. It could be emotional, just like that withdrawal of sex, for your significant other. So it is possible, but ask, what are they learning? What are you teaching them to use later in their lives? to modify behavior to have healthy relationships. One thing I'd like to add here is I was spanked. Usually people say I was spanked and I turned out all right. And I was like, yeah, I believe you did. I was spanked and I think I turned out all right. But I'm going to ask you 2 questions with that answer. You were spanked, you turned out all right. My first question is, did you really turn out all right? You have any anger issues? You have any relationship problems? You have any other anxieties or any other health, mental health stuff going on? Are you really all right? Because myself, I wasn't all right. I was having really unhealthy relationships. I was really sarcastic. I wasn't aggressive anger. I was passive anger. So I really wasn't all right. So once I realized that the stuff I did in my childhood worked back then with all the power and anger and all that, it wasn't working in my adult life. So I needed new tools, how to have a healthy relationship. So I wasn't all right. But some people can say, yes, I am all right. Now, I would say you're all right despite of the spankings, not because of the spankings. Now, you were spanked, you turned out all right, you don't have any childhood baggage, great. But now you have 4 kids. You can spank all 4 of those kids. One might turn out perfect, like you. One might turn out really low self-esteem, maybe start experimenting with sex, drugs, rock and roll, or whatever they do. One, everybody's going to turn out different. It wasn't because of the spanking that you turned out right, because your kids aren't going to have your tenacity, your resiliency. They don't have your temperament. They don't have your personality. So you can spank, like I'm using this as I had 3 siblings and myself. We were all whooped, pretty much the same, some a little more aggressive than others, but totally different, man. My sister turned out okay, but she's a yeller and she married an alcoholic. The second born was kicked out of 8 different schools, divorced a couple times, really tough life, a little addiction, a lot of pain and suffering. The third born is a spitting image of my father, short-tempered, hot-headed, all screaming his head off kind of person. The fourth born, me, heartless, you can't hurt me, have just shut off my feelings, because that was my coping skill to deal with some of the punishments that my father was doing, short-tempered, hot-headed, whooping, just tough. 4 kids, same environment, same punishment. We all turned out really different. All right, I think I beat that into the ground enough there. But any comment that I would that you want to share to add to that? Oh, I guess this wasn't it. Let me one more thing on punishment. This kid running with the father chasing the kid with a stick. Let's say that kid did something really, really bad that deserves a spanking. Now the father's chasing them and wants to give him a whooping, but the mother's at the front door saying, "No, don't, give him another chance." And the father turns to the mother and says, "But he might not do it again." Now process that. The father wants to whoop him so the kid will learn. The mother says, "Give him another chance." And the father says, "But he might not do it again." Ooh, that's a mind twister. See, Dad thinks, and a lot of our society thinks, that we need to provide pain so people will learn. That's physical or emotional pain. So that kid needs to know that he done wrong. So he needs to suffer before he learn, or so he will learn. And that's just not true anymore, or if it was ever true. So let's get to the discipline part. Why do parents discipline children? And Therese and I, when we do this in person, we put a newsprint on the wall and we ask the parents to say, why do you discipline your kids? Tell me the reasons, right? Your kid did this and now you discipline them. Why'd you do it? And these are some of the answers that we get. to teach right from wrong, to teach them there's consequences for their behavior, to help them learn respect for themselves and others, to teach them the rule of social living, right? To get along and understand that there's an ebb and flow and the actions and reactions, and just being respectful in the social democratic world we live in. And it helps them to learn to create boundaries, to keep themselves safe. So discipline, remember, punishment is extreme treatment for unwanted behavior. Discipline actually means to teach. Comes from the word disciple. So it's teaching them a new code of conduct. And it's not a single act. Some people say, no, that didn't work. Your kid needs a whooping. No, it's a process. It's building a relationship. So it might take a while for the new way of discipline to, to change and modify that child or that youth. And the goal of discipline is for them to be self-disciplined, to discipline themselves to go along with the social contract that we have in this world and family values that we have. So also think about your kids' ages and stages when they are doing something really silly, that they have a very immature, reactive, defensive brains. And we need to have an idea that this will work. If we're using these skills, which I'm about to show you, and we think, no, that ain't gonna work, how do you know this new philosophy could work? And I always talk to parents and I ask them, if you can get that child to do what you want, to turn out to that wonderful expectation that you have without spanking, would you? And most, probably 98% parents would say, yeah, I would. 2%.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had a parent tell me once, yeah, I still would.
Yep. I say 2, maybe to 5% of parents would say, no, yeah, I'd still do it because that's the way to do it, right? It's either cultural or that's just what worked for them, and it's worked how they were raised and it worked for them, and now they're doing it, it's working for them too. So, but I'm hopefully will change your mind. So discipline is a relationship. We have to ask these parenting purpose questions. So do you want to give attention to that child, or do you want to help that child be self-reliant? So think of the 4 goals of behavior. Every time that child bids for attention, do you want to just give them attention because of your mothering, fathering, loving, nurturing role, or do you want that child to be self-reliant and self-soothed and be able to exist in the world without being the center of attention? The next question, do you want to show who's the boss? Think of that second goal of misbehavior, that power. You want to show who's the boss? Not in this house, young man. Do you understand me? Or do you want to help your child be independent and responsible? Let's look at that third one. Do you want to get even? That child did something really harmful, really hurtful, really against your values. Do you want to say, how dare you? And do you want to get even? Or do you want to show that you understand to connect more of that relationship, to build more of those values? That would be that revenge goal of misbehavior. And let me tell you, before I get to that last bullet point, which I'll hide, I really like doing the teenage parenting classes. And I share this one thing. So if your teenager came up to you in an argument and said, F you, I hate you, I always ask parents, what would you do? And most parents' heads would pop off, right? If your kid said F you, you'd be like, don't you ever say that. You would probably be really hurt, and you would want them to never, ever say that again. But what I would say, do you want to get even, right? Knock the taste out of their mouth, rip them a new page? Or do you want to understand what's going on? to say, wow, you've never talked like that before. What's going on? That teenager said that to you for a reason. And if you smack them down for it, you'll never know why he said that or she said that. I want to know why they said that so we can work on that relationship. They might have said it for a darn good reason. But if you jump on them and want to get even to not you ever say that in my house, what did you learn? You learned that your kid hated you, and he's never ever going to tell you why. The last one, do I want to let my child off the hook or help that child be self-confident? So you want to go bail them out every time they get in trouble or do their homework for them. Never let, because maybe you had a really tough life and you don't want your child to suffer, right? I don't want him to suffer, so I'm going to let him off the hook and baby him and, you know, do all of that. But what are they learning? They're not learning to be self-confident. I remember I went to this, the psychologist was talking at a presentation, and he asked this one lady, she said, do you expect your daughter to go to college? And the lady's like, yes, I do. And the psychologist said, are you expecting to go with her? Because she took care of everything for that child, and that child never was self-confident enough to, you know, be independent on her own. So children learn through two things: empathy and consequences. So the more empathy and understanding we show, and I love this next quote, the more they are forced to think about the pain they have created for themselves. Very, very interesting. Let me give you an example. Let's say you notice your child having teasing the best friend, right? And you're seeing that your child is mistreating the best friend. And you're like, hey, honey, you know, I'm concerned about you keep treating your best friend like that. That's not a good relationship, and you might lose that friend. Oh, Ma, don't worry about it, man. We've been friends a long time. You don't know. That's what kids do these days. And you're like, okay. So now let's say he continues to treat his best friend bad and he loses his best friend. So now the parent's response, remember, kids learn through empathy and consequences. The consequences, he lost his best friend, right? So that's teaching right there. He lost his best friend. But if I came out and said, see, you lost your best friend. You should have listened to me. You're a bad friend. You keep treating a friend like that, you're not going to have any friends. See, look at that. You're so rude. What did that child just learn from me? Or what did he learn from that experience? Number one, he learned Dad was a jerk. Number two, he learned he was a bad friend because I told him he was a bad friend. You're never going to have any friends. Number three, he learned that Dad is very critical and all the child's energy is going towards me and not understanding his, like this thing, forced to think about the pain he created. He's not understanding the pain he created for himself because I kind of took over. Now, let me put a parent response the other way. Same scenario, kid loses his best friend. Now, empathy. Wow, man, you lost your best friend because you were treating him really disrespectfully. Man, that sucks. You guys were friends a long time. Man, that must be really disappointing. What are you going to do? I don't know. Well, what are your options? You know, you're a good friend to have. You know, it really sucks that you lost your best friend. I don't know, maybe I'll go apologize. Well, what do you think would happen if you apologized? I don't know, we've been friends a long time. I think he'll forgive me. Well, why don't you try that? You know, you're a really good friend to have. I'm sure he'll forgive you. Now, what did that child learn? That child learned that dad was respectful, was reflective, was supportive. Once you get into that I told you so and you should have did what I did, there's no empathy there. And all the anger goes towards you and not towards the pain that they created for themselves. So the more anger we show, the less they think. When they misbehave and we get all angry and do all the punishment, all their energy is going towards us and not towards what they did. And there's an old quote that says, when kids are at their worst, we need to be at our best. Kids are going to lie. Kids are going to steal money out of your wallet. Kids are going to do some crazy things. And we have to understand that they're kids and we need to have empathy. Of course, consequences too. Now, I'm not saying no punishment. Well, I am saying no punishment because there's something different called consequences. So let's watch this video. Hold on. Share sound. Jan? Come.
Nicholas, you know better than to draw on the walls.
Uh-oh.
Now go get in the corner and think about what you've done.
Oh, Mom, that's for little kids.
Well, maybe you're right. How should I punish you? Maybe a spanking?
Nah, that never works.
How about no TV for a week?
That's kiddie stuff.
I've got an idea.
Uh-oh.
I've mixed up some soap and water for you. Now be sure to wash every bit of it off, okay? And clean up after yourself.
Whew. This stuff is a lot easier to put on than it is to get off.
Nicholas!
Over here in the corner, Mom. Thinking about what I've done.
Over here in the corner, thinking about what I've done. Isn't it easier to take the punishment than the consequence? I'd rather, Nicholas rather sit in the corner and think about what he's done there than wash that darn wall. But if he washes that wall, he's gonna learn how to fix his mistake, learn that it's harder to get it off than it is to put on. So kids learn from empathy and consequences. Now, if I would have screamed my head off and whooped him and threw him in his room, clean that wall off, yeah, he probably might not write on any more walls, but what did I teach him? Did I build a relationship? Did I build trust and caring? Yeah, he might not ever write on another wall, but how's he going to stop his kids from writing on the wall or any other injustice in his life? All right, so natural consequences are the best teachers. Natural consequences, if you forget your lunch, you go hungry. If you go out in the rain without an umbrella, you get wet. If you're mean to your best friend, natural consequence, you lose your best friend. Those are teaching. Now, a natural consequence, now we show empathy. Wow, you are soaking wet because you didn't, cold and shivery and soaking wet because you didn't bring an umbrella. Man, that sucks. What are you gonna do next time when it's raining? Oh, I should have brought my umbrella. Yeah, you should have brought your umbrella. Now he's gonna bring an umbrella next time. He forgets his lunch. I forgot my lunch. Why didn't you bring it to me, Mommy? I was the only kid not eating lunch. Wow, you must have been really hungry because you forgot your lunch. What are you gonna do tomorrow so you don't forget your lunch? I don't know, maybe I'll put it by the door. That's a good idea, why don't you try that? So natural consequences, as long as they're handled with empathy and problem solving, they're a great teacher. But now, when a consequence is dangerous, when your rights are being disrespected, when somebody can get hurt, when somebody's property is in danger of being broken, or if they're just too young to handle it on their own, like natural consequence of not brushing your teeth, to gingivitis, cavities, dentist bills. Natural consequence, and we can't let that happen, right? That's a parent-owned problem. We gotta have a logical consequence for not brushing. Natural consequence for playing by the street, you get hit by a car. So you can tell your kids, see, now you're dead. You should have listened to me. Huh? Who's learning now? No, we can't let a natural consequence teach. We have to have a logical consequence, right? So logical consequences are when a parent needs to get involved, from health and safety and property and age and that kind of thing. So a logical consequence needs to make sense. It needs to be related to the crime, right? So if they don't do their homework, or if they come home past curfew and you take away their PlayStation, that's not related. If they come home past curfew, something related is not go out the next day or reduce curfew. That's related. You can't take away dessert. It has to be respectful. So let's say they come home past curfew and you scream your head off and ground them for a week. That's not respectful. It's got to be reasonable. Let's say they come home past curfew and you ground them for 2 months. Is that reasonable for coming home past curfew? It's really not reasonable or respectful. It's related because it's due to, you know, their freedom of coming and going.
It's not reliable either.
Oh yeah. So if what you're doing isn't working, you keep on grounding them and they keep coming home late, it's not reliable. So we got to go back to the drawing board because that consequence isn't reliable. And the rehearsed is big because the difference between punishment and discipline, punishment happens right there. Boom, you come home late, that's it, you're grounded. What? No way, that's not fair. But a discipline is rehearsed, means, hey, I have a problem with you coming home past curfew. I get really worried when you're not at home on time because I don't know where you are and it's dangerous out there. So we need to come up with an idea. How are you going to get home on? So we need to rehearse it. Then we need to ask them, what do you think should happen if you come home past curfew? Nothing. Well, that's not going to work with me. What other ideas you got? So ask them to contribute to the consequence. And now when they do the consequence, we don't have to do anything but say this: I see you chose not to go out tomorrow. And this whole process, well, before I get to that process, let me get through the respectful conversation here that you heard me use in a couple of those examples. Effective communication, that's reflective listening. You seem really angry about being grounded this weekend. You're just identifying their feeling. Wow, you are really angry. But when we're angry, we don't kick the wall. What's going on? We can talk about it. An iMessage is when their behavior is affecting you. I feel worried when you come home past curfew because the freaks come out at night, okay? Because you can get hurt, because there's curfew laws, because is just the objective outcome of their behavior, not because you're lazy, because I told you 100 times, it's because it's dangerous. And then we ask them open-ended questions to get dialogue, right? What are you gonna do about this? How are you gonna solve this problem? Teresa?
Do I have time to share something?
Sure.
Do you have time for me to do that?
Yep.
So when Luke was about 7 or 8 years old, it was becoming a problem that he would not get up to go to school. I'd wake him up. I'd have to do it 5, 6, 7 times, and it was becoming a problem for me. So misbehavior. So I said, Luke, this is an alarm clock. When it's time for you to get up, it's going to make a noise. You hit it, it stops. What do you got to do? Got to get dressed, got to eat breakfast, got to brush my teeth, get my backpack, get it to the corner with Chibi, sick. But yes. So it's up to you now because I'm feeling frustrated. I can't get you up in the morning. So It's yours. You take care of it now. So it took us 3 days of going through that. First day he woke up, or he wouldn't wake up. The alarm went off, he shut it off, nothing. So I waited and I waited because I put it on him. Waited. Finally, about 15 minutes before he was supposed to leave, I go, Luke, Jimmy Zick's walking down the street. You better get up. So he's running around. He didn't get to eat breakfast. He goes, you're probably glad that I didn't eat breakfast. I said, no, I'm not. I feel bad for you because I think you're going to get really hungry. What could you do next time, Luke? I don't know. So I asked him again when he came home from school. I don't know. Second day, he grabbed a protein bar. I'm eating this. I said, that's fine, because he got up late again. Didn't pay attention to the alarm clock, and I didn't go in there because I was leaving it up to him now, right? So he grabbed that thing. I go, fine, you can eat a protein bar. He goes, but I didn't brush my teeth or comb my hair. So what could you do, Lucas, tomorrow when you get up? I don't know. Same thing in the afternoon. So finally, the third day, alarm goes off. He shuts it off, gets dressed, brushes his teeth, combs his hair, eats some cereal. He goes, Mom, I'm ready. I said, Lucas, you have a half an hour before Jimmy comes down the street. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. So he got, like, instead of suffering the consequence again the third day, he got a good consequence. He got to sit down, relax, watch SpongeBob. And then by the time Jimmy Zip came down, he was ready to run out the door. So yeah, it took a long time, 3 days of talking. But that second day, he finally sat down with me, and said, I need to get up quicker when the alarm goes off. Yay, sun's coming up tomorrow. Yay, good for you, Lucas. So, most people don't like that because it takes so long for their spank him. Then I'm done. I don't have to deal with it anymore. So when you talk about that, it seems so abstract. But when you hear that somebody really did it, came out good, it works.
Yep, that's that when the discipline slide was there. It's a process, right? Now you could have went in there and said, get up right now, or get the ice water and throw it on them, what the parents used to do all the time, get out of bed. That might work, but what are you teaching? That's what I just thought that. You taught him self-discipline, Therese, so that was awesome. And you let your kid watch SpongeBob SquarePants? Shame.
Yes, and I watched it with him. I love SpongeBob.
I know. I just knew a parent who would let their kid watch it. It is good. All right. Great example. And Teresa kind of went through this exploring alternatives right here, right? First, you need to identify the problem. What's the problem? I feel frustrated or overwhelmed when you sleep in because you're late for school. Right? I feel frustrated when the garbage isn't taken out because it makes the house stink. Whatever the problem is. Then you brainstorm ideas, ask those open-ended questions. What do you think you can do so this doesn't happen again? I don't know. Well, let's think about it. Don't give them an answer right away. Let them process. Let them come up with something. Now, if they really don't know, they really can't. You might even say, you know what? That is a tough one, honey. Why don't we think about it? We'll talk tomorrow or talk before bed tonight. Then before bed, so what ideas did you come up with? They might have come up with something, they might not. Now, if you want to shoot one idea to open up their mind, what do you think if you this? Then it gets their brain moving. So first brainstorm. Now, if they come up with an idea that's really stupid, don't knock it down. Just say, well, that's one idea. What else you got? Maybe write it down on a paper. So, okay, that's one idea. What else you got? You give a couple, he gives a couple, you process. So in the brainstorming, we don't judge them yet. Number 3, then we say, all right, so let's say it's curfew. I feel concerned when you come home late because there's curfew laws and it's dangerous out there. How can you get yourself home on time? Well, just extend the curfew. Well, that's one idea, honey, extend the curfew. Have no curfew, all right? There's another no curfew. What about set your cell phone alarm? Okay, set your cell phone. Tell a parent that the house you're visiting to remind you what time it is. So we write them all down. We don't judge them. That no curfew thing, don't be a smart aleck with me. I asked you some serious questions. No, you get that, wow, that's an idea. So then we start discussing them. What might happen if? Well, if there was no curfew, that's not going to work for me. So I'm going to scratch that one out because it's dangerous. What other one? Well, how about this one? Extend the curfew. Well, honey, I would be willing to extend the curfew when we build some trust and when you can earn and have some cooperation. So we'll put that one later. What else you got? Set cell phone alarm, and we go until we can both agree on one of the ideas. Step 4, we're going to choose the healthy and safe idea. And step 5 is we're going to use it for a trial period of time. All right. So you say that you're going to set your cell phone alarm and be home on time. That's great. Let's try that for a week or 2 to see if it works. Now, what's not on here, let me save that, is if it's needed to have a consequence, what do you think should happen if you come home late? And have them contribute to the consequence. So if they say, don't go out the next day, say, all right. So now they're going out. So you kind of review. So honey, what is your understanding about going out tonight? I'm going to come home on time at 10 o'clock. I'm going to set my cell phone. And if you're late, if I'm late, I'm not going to be able to go out tomorrow. All right. Have a good time, honey. Now they come home late. What do? You blow up and say, after all that time I gave you and I talked to you. No, all you have to say is, I see you chose not to go out tomorrow. Okay. That's it. Now that child is sitting there, still angry probably, but what does he have? He has accountability. He had involvement. That was that whole rehearsed part of discipline. So now he's still angry maybe, but he was involved. So every strategy is only as good as the relationship it's built on. Punishment works, but what does it teach? Discipline will create that good social contract human being that has healthy relationships and can talk about getting their needs met without hurting people physically or emotionally. So they won't do better unless they feel better. They need to be a valuable contributing member of the family, of society, of the team. And that is my story, folks. Comments, interests?
All right, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can utilize the chat box or I can unmute you and you can speak. This is a great presentation, you guys. Joe, you had me cracking up on a lot of it.
I get a little hyped up and go over. I push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, it was really funny, really funny. Well, if no one has any questions or further comments, then I'm going to conclude this meeting and we will see you all next week. We're doing marijuana and everybody have a great weekend.
We're doing marijuana? Is this in person? Oh, we're